I've always hated my basement. It wasn't just the damp smell or the way the single flickering light bulb barely illuminated the space. It was something else, something that felt wrong. It started small. I'd hear rustling noises late at night, like something shifting around down there. At first, I blamed it on old pipes or maybe a rat. But then, things escalated. One night, I was alone in the house watching TV when I heard it again. Except this time, it wasn't just rustling, it was footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps moving across the cement floor. My stomach twisted. I turned off the TV, straining to listen. Then I heard something that made my blood freeze, a deep, guttural breath. I bolted up and grabbed the nearest thing, a heavy flashlight. My hands trembled as I made my way to the basement door. It was slightly ajar, though I knew for a fact I had shut it earlier. I took a deep breath and pushed it open. The stairs creaked under my weight as I descended. The air was thick, heavy. The dim light barely cut through the darkness, casting eerie shadows along the walls. And then, I saw it. In the far corner, crouched low to the ground, was a figure. At first, I thought it was a person, but as my eyes adjusted, I realized its limbs were too long, its fingers too sharp, its eyes hollow. It wasn't human. Then it moved. I don't remember running back up the stairs. I just remember slamming the door shut and locking it. I heard scratching from the other side, then silence. I never went down there again. Ever since I moved into this house, something has been wrong with the basement door. At first, it was just a feeling, a cold dread every time I passed it. But then, the door started opening by itself. The first time, I brushed it off as a draft. The second time, I convinced myself I hadn't shut it properly. But the third time, I knew something was seriously wrong. It was 3 a.m. I woke up to the sound of creaking wood. My heart pounded as I sat up in bed, straining to hear. Another creak. It was coming from the hallway. I grabbed my phone, using its weak glow to guide me. As I stepped into the hallway, I saw it. The basement door was wide open, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. I swear I had locked it before bed. Something about that gaping darkness filled me with a primal terror. I wanted to shut the door and run back to my room, but then I heard it. Something breathing down there. I stepped closer, peering into the black void. My phone's flashlight barely cut through the darkness. Then I saw movement. A pale hand gripped the bottom step. Slowly, agonizingly, it pulled itself upward, revealing a face. It was me. My own face, staring up at me from the basement, except it was wrong. Its eyes were empty sockets, its mouth stretched into an impossible grin. It opened its mouth, but instead of speaking, it made a sound, a sickening, distorted echo of my own voice. I slammed the door shut and locked it. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I nailed the door shut. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the breathing. When I was a kid, I was terrified of our basement. My parents never understood why. It's just a basement, they'd say. But to me, it was something else. I never felt alone down there. It wasn't just paranoia. Things would move on their own. My toys would be in different places. Sometimes I'd hear soft whispers when no one else was around. One night, when I was about 10, I was playing in the living room when I heard a noise coming from the basement. A rhythmic thumping, like someone knocking on the floor from below. I told my mom. She brushed it off. "Just the house settling," she said. But the knocking continued. That night, I couldn't sleep. My room was directly above the basement, and around midnight, The knocking started again. I pulled the covers over my head, heart pounding. Then it changed. The knocking turned into scraping, like nails dragging along the floorboards beneath me. I was paralyzed with fear. And then I heard it. A voice. A whisper, so quiet I barely caught it. "Let me out!" I screamed. My parents rushed in, but by the time they checked the basement, it was empty. Nothing was out of place. Years later, after we moved out, my mom finally told me the truth. Before we bought the house, the previous owner had locked his brother in the basement for years. He went mad and eventually died down there. They found scratch marks on the walls. I still have nightmares about that voice.